Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Wrap for what was Monday, the 3rd of July, 2023. It was the day after the big digital summer party. It was a regular streaming day, which was great to get back into the regular swing of things with full days of gameplay after basically having a weekend that had almost no gameplay. And it was great. You know, I recapped the whole event, talked about all the great things that happened during it. We talked a little bit about the future and stuff like that because now we know what we're looking at for game releases. We had a whole segment about a video made by a pro fighting game player called Diaphone, who analyzed my Street Fighter 6 gameplay. That went really well. You know, a good segment about that. And basically just a really chill podcast, a good way to start our Monday off. And then we jumped into Final Fantasy 16. Now, really this game is, for me, how can I say it? Basically, the way this game was working is as follows. Something interesting happens in the plot. Oh, cool. Okay? Then there'll be some gameplay. Oh, this is good. There's some combat. Maybe some new gameplay elements in the combat. Some new enemies. A new dungeon. This is excellent. Then you get some more plot developments. This is great. Then the game decides to slow down to a slogging crawl and literally interjects hours of filler that add absolutely positively nothing whatsoever to the overall arching story, although it seems like the writers really thought that this stuff was important when it's not, causing you to get incredibly bored for extended periods of time. Case in point today, you know, last time around when we had played Final Fantasy 16, we had returned to the Phoenix Gate, we had done a whole dungeon, and it was a big major reveal about the main character, Clive. He got a whole bunch of new powers, and you're like, oh, this is excellent. Now the game's going to pick up. No exaggeration. Today, 2 hours of near boredom. There was a few plot elements in there that were interesting, but it was insane amount of cutscenes. The game opens up and says, oh, you can now go anywhere you want on the map and do side content, except all the side content is literally fetch quests. Every piece of side content. Oh, get some food for this person who's hungry and bring it to them. Your reward? Oh, a gill bug you can go sell somewhere and like 5 experience points. Oh, someone's lost. Go fight a bunch of generic enemies. Okay, you saved them. They went back to town. Oh, here's your reward, a crafting item you don't need. That's all that there is. And people were saying there are meaningful side quests coming up, just not yet. That essentially I'm still in the intro of the game. Just so you guys know, I'm 15 hours into Final Fantasy 16, and I'm still in the intro of the game. Okay? So after about 2 hours of slogging on, very boring dialogue, I mean, it got so bad. Seriously, it got so bad with this meaningless nonsense. Like, okay, this is supposed to be the main plot, but you need to find a girl because you're doing a favor for someone who did a favor for you, and the girl's missing because she was looking for a comb. And the comb is a rare item that apparently was given to her by her leader or the mistress. But by the way, the comb actually isn't valuable. It's just a sentimental value. That's why she wants the comb. So you have to go out and look, and you have the clues for talking to all these people in the town to find out where the girl is. And finally, they kind of allude that she might be out there in the grass or in the farm. So you go look over there, and finally, oh, there's a group of enemies. You got to fight the enemies. When you kill the enemies, oh, the girl is dead. But you can take the comb as a memento that, you know, you found the girl. And then you got to talk to a bunch of townspeople after that. And then you finally go back and you tell the mistress that she's dead. I'm not kidding you. It's like 40 minutes. What did that add to the game? Literally nothing. It has nothing to fucking do with the game. Nothing. Nothing. There's no bearing on the plot. It's just stupid filler. And that's what this game is like. It's like, oh, here's an amazing, tasty part of the plot that's really well done and interesting and big developments and everything. And then slow it down to a crawl for 2 hours and waste your time. You know? I wanted to do some of the side content, and literally everyone said today, don't do it. It's literally all time wasting content. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of world building if you want to know a little bit of extra lore about the plot, but it's really not that important. Instead, you know, if you want to get to the good stuff, keep going. So that's what I did today. Even though the game said, oh, you can go anywhere you want on the map, I said, I'll just do the main story. So after 2 hours of boredom, we had an hour of really good content in Final Fantasy 16. We ended up going to this like underground mines in a dungeon, fought some enemies there, some newer enemies, although admittedly a little disappointing because we're 15 hours in and we're getting bad repeat enemies already. Like, oh, it's a human with a giant hammer. Wait a minute, a giant hammer? You mean like the goblin with the giant hammer? Yeah, it's the same enemy. Like literally it's the same enemy, just a skin swap. And we're 15 hours in and they're already completely repeating enemy types and stuff. I'm like, oh my god, that sucks. And now the gameplay, I hate to say it, the formula of the combat is starting to be revealed. There's always going to be mobs of more weak enemies, and what you do is you alternate between your elemental types and abilities to go between them and do big combos. And then all of a sudden, a big tank guy will come out, and you can't beat him because you have to stagger him with the stagger meter, and you do it 2-3 times in a loop while dodging their attacks, and then they die. And that's really it. Like, it's pretty simplistic. I'm not going to lie. At this point, it definitely feels like the combat engine is action focused, and you have to concentrate to dodge and everything because it's action focused, but it's incredibly simplistic. There's not much to it. I mean, maybe there will be more coming up, but even by the end of today's stream, so there was a big plot segment, okay, and it lasted about an hour. It was well done. I liked the plot. There was a boss. The boss was fine, and then there was these big developments. There was another big kaiju fight and stuff like that. And I say kaiju, I mean the icons are fighting each other, the dominants are controlling them, and all that. Big epic, crazy end to the stream and all of that. Got new abilities unlocked and everything by the end of the stream and all of that. I'm like, okay, but it really didn't seem like anything new happened besides plot developments, which is fine. I liking the plot. When it's focusing on the main plot, it's fun. But when they have you go off and have to do these menial tasks for an hour and a half, and there's all this overbearing, blabbing dialogue with the people in town, the fucking townspeople that literally have nothing to do with the plot, but you have to waste time having these giant dialogue discussions with them. It's not like, oh, okay, go over here and here's your help. And it's like, oh, got to talk to this one, talk to that one. Oh, this one says go over here, talk to this one. Maybe you should do this, fight one enemy. Oh, do this, hand me that spoon you found on the enemy. Okay, wait, here's a stick of butter. Go bring this over to the baker. Bring it to the baker, he bakes you a cake. You eat the cake, you have to take a shit. You go find the stall, you take a shit. Oh, the stall's locked. Go talk to 3 townspeople about how to unlock the stall to take a shit. You finally take the shit, and then it's like, oh, now I can go down the next part of the game. Oops, I just wasted 50 minutes. That's what the game feels like at this point. So when it has high highs of great plot and interesting combat and boss fights, it's great. But then they slog on with these filler parts that suck ass. So it's funny because I know for a fact there's some people who are criticizing the playthrough, but here's the thing. This game lost its audience a week ago. All right? I'm sorry to say it. It did. Like, the second stream I played of Final Fantasy 16, people lost interest. They were like, dude, the game is way too many cutscenes. It's boring. I have to agree. I can't not agree. The plot overall is interesting when you get to actually watch the interesting plot and do some of the combat. But the game interjects so much boredom between, it's barely passable. I mean, I'm pissed that I'm bored between these segments. I can't believe they did it like this. Seriously, like, not a Final Fantasy game that I've ever played has been like this. So, it is what it is. I'm going to keep playing it. I don't hate it, but by the end of today's stream, again, a 3-hour stream, 2 hours were incredibly boring, almost nothing going on, and then the final hour was like, oh my god, turbo mode through the plot, a dungeon, new abilities, boss fights, and even by the end of the stream, there was a time skip. And now we're in a whole new act of the game, and this essentially is, I'm calling it Act 2. This is really the meat of the game. After 15 hours, we beat the intro, and now we're actually in the main part of the game. And the reason I know that, because now there's a room, and in the room they call it the Room of Mementos. And when you go in there, you notice, oh, every major plot point moving forward, you're going to receive a memento at the end of it, and it goes into the room to remind you of everything that's happened in the game. And I'm like, oh, there's like 18 of these or something, and we have one. Because it was from the thing that just happened at the end of the intro. And I'm like, okay, so that makes sense. Now we're actually heading into the meat of the game. Now that we have this all like underlying plot established about the dominance and the icons. And now we actually know who the big bad of the game is. That was revealed today and stuff like that. But one of the worst pacings I've ever seen in an RPG. I don't know. People say, oh, it's 10 out of 10 game of the year. I don't know what game they're playing. Maybe they like really boring TV shows with insane amounts of filler. Like, maybe they love The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and shit like that. For me, the reason I fell out of love of those shows is because they went on too long-winded and had too much filler garbage, and you just can't retain your interest anymore. That's what this game is feeling like. Every time I play it 3 hours, 2 of the hours feel boring and a waste of time, and 1 hour is amazing. So out of the 15 hours I played, literally 5 good hours and 10 boring hours, why couldn't we just have 5 good hours and keep the game moving? Some people disagree with me. You can do that. That's up to you. I'm just being honest. Yeah, the game is boring me half the time, and it sucks because I know in there's a good game. When it gets to those good points, I'm like, wow, this is great, but it sucks I have to waste so much time to get to those good points. And I'll tell you, the audience, they're gone. This is a game that 2 weeks ago when I started it had interest. Now I can barely retain 250 viewers on the stream. People just don't give a shit. They're so bored of this game already because they don't want to sit around watching boring-ass cutscenes you can't skip. You have to watch it to get through the plot. So I don't blame them. you know. But I am gonna persevere. I'm gonna continue on. I'm not quitting the game or anything like that. I will continue to play it, and hopefully it will continue to get better over time. I guess we'll see. Okay. The late stream tonight, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, went really well. Tonight, we did some missions for Robbie, which allowed us to upgrade the Pura pad, and now we have the ability to put down teleportation spots on the map, which I'm sure is going to come in handy at the end of the game. And we went to Hyrule Castle, which really was a whole dungeon in itself. Like, it really was a dungeon, even though there were no puzzles. There was a lot of exploration. There was a lot of enemies that you had to fight. You found some cool items. I got some new armor and stuff, which was really cool to find. And a big boss fight at the end that was very tough because it had a lot of gloom involved. All right. So after today, I was, oh, that was interesting. It was pretty well done. And now the plot is advanced. We actually found out that one of the things we had gone to earlier in the game that seemed pointless, Kakariko Village, actually is for the main plot. And we advanced that plot line. And now we're heading into the next part. So now when I play again on Wednesday night, basically what we're going to do is figure out how to get to this fifth and final major dungeon. Although I would argue Hyrule Castle is a dungeon. It's just a light dungeon. But we're going to have another major dungeon coming up, probably starting that Wednesday night. Everyone says it's the longest dungeon in the game, so I'm assuming 2 streams to beat it. And then the big finale against Ganondorf. And by the way, not that this is a spoiler, but I figured out today where Ganondorf is on my own. I was just kind of thinking logically about it. And I was like, I think I know exactly where he is. It would make sense based on the plot up to now and the cutscenes. And then everyone's like, yeah, you're right. I was like, yeah, I thought so. And I'm not going to spoil for anyone, but it's pretty easy to figure out where the hell he is, you know, if you think about the game. So, anyway, great stream tonight. I had a good time. We made great progress, and we're on pace, probably another 2 to 3 streams, and we're going to wrap up Tears of the Kingdom, okay? So that was RPG Day. Great progress in each game, thankfully. Tomorrow, we swing back to Street Fighter 6, and the question is, what will I be doing in Street Fighter 6 tomorrow? Well, no new character, but what I'll say is we have some options. I'd say option number 1 would be Ryu again, who I played on Friday, and I was just starting to get the hang of him. I was actually starting to win matches against, you know, Platinum and Diamond players, and then I kind of ran out of time. So maybe re-exploring Ryu. But maybe we played too much Ryu recently and you want something else. Maybe the return of Marisa a little bit, maybe Zangief a little bit, or maybe Blanca again. Because Blanca has hit Diamond, and I've been doing well, and if I play Blanca another stream, I might even level him up to like Diamond 2-star and continue my journey towards getting even maybe a Master rank eventually. So it's really, it's up to you guys. I'm down for whatever. I'm now starting to feel comfortable in the game, although admittedly better with certain characters. Like, I think I'm feeling more comfortable with Blanca and Zangief than anyone else. Maybe Lily to some extent too. But definitely like Marisa, I feel kind of weak with her. I don't really feel like I'm strong with her right now, nor do I feel like I even have the tech to really win that much. So I don't know what you want tomorrow. Think about it. Let me know in the morning. We'll talk about it on the podcast, and we'll determine during the podcast who I want to use next during this major stream of Street Fighter 6 gameplay in the morning after the podcast. And then night stream tomorrow night, Diablo 4. We will continue on with Act 5. Last time we played it, we made major great progress, and now we're going to attempt to make even better progress on the late stream, and maybe even wrap up Act 5 and get into maybe the end game with Act 6. Okay? All right, guys. Thank you so much. Please have a good evening. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. Get caught up. And by the way, all that footage from the marathon is live on the appropriate channels. There will be food vlogging tomorrow for the 4th of July, including the chili cheese dogs as well as the mac and cheese that my wife made yesterday. That video goes live tomorrow. The dessert video goes live Wednesday over on DSP Reacts. I know those are the 2 videos that didn't go live yet. Those will go live. Also, please check out that fun tier maker we did of all the American cuisine. It was a really well done. 90 minutes. People had a lot of fun with it, and we went back and forth with it. I think you'll really like that if you haven't seen it yet. It seems like the food ones do really well, so hopefully you'll give it a look there. And, of course, the game schedule here on DSP Gaming, I made the featured video. Already has 1,000 views in less than a day and growing. I think people are interested to see what are the games I'm most interested in for the rest of the year. We had a really good discussion during that segment as well, so give that a look. All right, guys, thanks all ever so much. Have a good evening. See you in the morning for the podcast and Street Fighter. Peace out. Later.